Yeah, thanks. The slides are up now. And yeah, I'm Katerina. I'm going to chair this session. So I think we can start. The meeting is also being recorded. You should all have given permission to do so, so that others can also see the recording afterwards. There are also live notes on the page of the workshop that contain our thoughts, and feel free to enter thoughts or questions in advance if you'd like. I will be keeping a look at that whenever the question and answer happens for each of the talks. But let's get Graham to give the introduction talk. So I'll mute now.
Okay, thanks, Katerina, and thanks everybody for attending. I think when we were organizing this workshop, we were wondering how many people would turn up for a virtual workshop like this, and we have more than 200 people registered and almost 140 in this session now, which is absolutely great. So let me say, first of all, a word of apology that we're not in Lund, which is rather unfortunate. Obviously, that's where we wanted to be. But of course, with the virus situation, it clearly made a face-to-face meeting quite untenable. But thanks to our Lund colleagues in particular for having done so much work to prepare for a meeting there. And we do hope that in the fullness of time, we will be able to visit Lund. But of course, despite the challenging situation that we face, the challenges that we face as particle physicists have not gone away. So we decided that we would have a shorter virtual workshop concentrating on the key issue of new architectures, which I'm not actually going to say anything about the scientific topic. I think everybody knows what the arguments are for why this is important. And then, of course, you're here, so you obviously think that it's important that we discuss this. Let me, however, say a few words about running a virtual workshop and what we decided to do this week. First of all, we decided that we would run the meeting only for 2 hours a day to help us all focus on it. So I hope that you can give the meeting your full attention for the next 2 hours. We worked with the speakers to make material available in advance, and thanks to the speakers for that. It's one of the dreadful habits that we have in our field, that people often post slides like 5 minutes before the meeting, but it was nice that we were able to get things up for people to have a look at before. We hope to do the same thing with the slides for tomorrow and for the next day, so that people can look at them in advance. We also have this pre-workshop notebooks where people could put in comments and bring things up for discussion. And I see that actually quite a few comments were filled in for the topics that we'll cover today, which is nice. It gives us some idea of what it is that people think are the most important things. We are aiming for about a 50-50 split between the presentations and discussion, so there should be lots of time to discuss. Now, as we're tons of people, I see 145 people in Zoom right now, and ping time being a few hundred milliseconds for most of us, we ask that people raise your hand if you want to speak. And then the chair, that's Katerina, for today, will invite you to speak. And we'll also monitor the Zoom chat. So if you want to type something in, or if you have some audio problem you want to contribute, then feel free to put something into the chat. As Katerina said, we have live notes, but we also have some nominated note takers who are going to try and record the important points for the discussion. And also, as Katerina pointed out, we'll be recording these sessions and posting them for posterity and for our colleagues in different time zones, particularly for people who are in the Asian time zones. It's kind of impossible for them to join, but the world is round, so we can't fix that as an issue. Then, just as a little last slide that I wanted to put up, what we're going to do as sort of the outcome of the workshop is summarize the main points that we find that they can be presented in HSF meetings and GDBs as well. The outcomes of the workshop in terms of the things that we have to chase up will go to, as appropriate, WLCG, HSF working groups, EPICS working groups as well. One of the things that we're really trying to do here is, of course, learn how to run larger virtual meetings. And I think one thing a couple of things that we notice is that there are some compelling reasons for continuing with virtual events, even when we can restart some face-to-face activities in the future. First of all, it's much easier for people to attend virtual events in terms of no costs or travel time associated with it, and there's far lower environmental impact from the meetings. Of course, we have a big question mark about how we make meetings like this as effective as possible. And so we will have, after the workshop, a survey and a little post-workshop meeting to assess how successful we were, what we can do better, and how we might plan future events. But what I would just point out is that we'd like people to maybe reserve the week of the 21st to the 25th of September as being a next open slot for an HSF-WLCG event, the format of which we will obviously have to decide depending on the circumstances that we find ourselves in. But I hope that that's a nice little introduction to people for the workshop. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, or whether we move on to the meat of the topics that we want to discuss today.